and welcome back to Fiddle Up. I'm Emerald Ray, and today we're going to be talking about the four-step process to learning by ear. So that tune that I just played is called Mrs. McLeod, and it's played in Scottish music, in Cape Breton music, in Irish music in G, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And it's played in contra music. It's played all over the place. I thought that would be a good little tune to get started out for this learning by ear thing. And no matter what level you're at, you can learn that tune. So don't worry about the difficulty of the tune. It's a really simple tune, even though I was putting a bunch of ornamentation in. That was for a reason, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So there's 4 steps to learning by ear. And the first step is listening. Listening, listening. Listen, 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 listen. This is absolutely the most important part of the process. It's actually the most important part of playing music. There is no more important thing than you can ever do in music than listen. And you might be thinking, well, isn't playing important? Not as important as listening. It's really important. And it's one of those things where if you're really fired up to play, if you're really excited about playing, if you're have any goals or agendas around this thing and you're just like play, you're gonna overplay. I promise. Listening is so important. You should really be spending way more time listening and thinking about music than you do playing, because that is going to make everything go easier. You know how people say work smarter and not harder? This is the smarter part right here, the listening part. So what happens when you're listening? Listening is downloading the tune. Let's just go digital on this. So this is sort of a concept I like to think about. We've all been in that spot where you're, not so much these days where internet speeds are a little bit better, but when you were trying to watch a video and it hasn't downloaded yet and it's sort of buffering and something's spinning around and you can't play the video or the thing because it hasn't downloaded yet, right? And that's exactly what's happening when you're trying to play a tune that you don't know. That's exactly what's happening. So when you're listening, you're downloading the tune from the internet, from the fiddle internet. You're downloading this thing, you're absorbing it, you're osmosing it. That's what we used to say before, back in the old days, back in my time. We used to say listening, absorbing, osmosing. So you would just sort of suck it all up like a sponge, And so listening to lots of fiddle music all the time it's like if you're learning a different language and you need to be, listening to that language to be able to play it. If you're learning French, you should be listening to some French radio, And so that's kind of the whole thing. You want to listen to a lot of fiddle music in general, and a lot of different types of fiddle music, I think, because I'm one of those people that loves different things. But if you love Irish music and you only want to listen to that, go for it. If you love Cape Breton music and you only ever want to listen to that, go for it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you that in general, listening to lots of different things is going to give you a wider ear, a wider palette of things to choose from once you get into your own fiddling and deciding what your personal musicality is. So in general, listen to lots of fiddle music. That's number 1. But then when you're learning a tune, listen to that tune. And I mean, listen to it to death. Like really, listen. I have my students do this all the time. Just listen. Just spend a whole week listening. I like to send a tune to people at least a week before they're going to learn it so they can just listen. And I call it listening homework. This is your homework, just to listen to this tune. And this comes from, again, the oral tradition like I was talking about before. And that is, all based around listening. And so, back in the days when people were learning fiddle music from their uncle or their grandfather, or, the generations before them, if you grew up in one of these traditions where there was fiddle music around all the time and you learned it from your family and from your community, you would have grown up listening to this for years and years and years. By the time you picked up an instrument, you would have all of these tunes in your head that you'd been listening to your whole life. And that is how this was done for a long time, and how it's still done in a lot of places in the world, and not just in the few genres that we're talking about in this course. This is done all over the world. This is how folk music is learned. So listening is so important. Take all the time to listen. Take all the time to listen and understand what you're hearing. And even if you're listening and it's a bunch of notes and it's going by, all of the time that you're spending listening is practice time. Consider that practice time. If you're listening to fiddle tunes in the car, give yourself a gold star for participating in fiddle music that day. Even if it was passive learning, that's really important to do. If you're listening while you're cleaning your house, all of that time is practice time, because you're engaging with it, you're absorbing it. And the more you can listen first, the faster you're going to learn, I promise. So anyway, we will move on to step 2. Step 2 is singing. So when you're learning a tune, such as the tune that I was playing in the beginning, Mrs. McLeod, if I was going to learn that tune, first thing I would do, listen to it to death. The second thing I'm going to do is sing it. So once I've listened to it, so I really know where most of the notes are, I'm going to start singing it. I'm going to sing it in the car. I'm going to sing it in the shower. I'm going to sing it cleaning my house. I'm going to sing it all the time. And that is also practice time. That is time spent singing the tune. And the reason you sing the tune is to prove to yourself, and to me, if I was your teacher sitting there, that you do understand all of that information. You do know where all those notes are. And they might seem like they're off in space and you don't know where they are on the fingerboard yet, but honestly, that's secondary. What you're trying to do is to be able to recreate the tune without an instrument. Like really, I would rather you be able to sing the tune and then take it to any instrument. If you can sing the tune, you can play it on the fiddle, you could pick it out on the piano, you could do whatever. You just have it. It's in you. It also helps to understand what your understanding of the notes are. So when you're learning all of those different notes, you have that big jump in the beginning, dum 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 dum. And so understanding the spaces between all those different notes, those are called intervals, by the way, if you hear that term. The interval is the space between those notes. So if it's a fourth or a fifth, there's 4 notes between, 5 notes between, those are all different intervals. So having an understanding of how far apart those notes are is really, really important. So singing the tune gives you an idea of what's going on in your head. Have I learned that tune? Do I not quite have that part yet? All of that is going to come together when it comes out of your mouth. So if you have any misgivings about singing, just throw them away, because this isn't about being a great singer. Although I am a singer and I focus on singing and I love singing, and singing is definitely my thing. It's really just a tool that I use. And if I wasn't a full-time singer and songwriter and all that, I would still be doing it. Another thing that's handy about singing is that if you go to a session, if you go to an Irish session, a Scottish session, an old-time session, and you say, hey, you know what? I'd really love to play such and such a tune. Somebody might say, oh, I don't recognize that name. Or, there are many, many, many of us who learned our tunes in sessions and don't know the names to all of our tunes. So that often happens in a session where I am telling somebody, oh, can you play such and such a tune? And they go, oh, I don't know. Can you sing it to me? Literally, it happens every single session. Every single time I have to sing a tune to somebody. You could pick up your fiddle and play it, but sometimes you can't. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to do that. So it's really good to be able to sing the tune, or, what they call it is jigging. If you jig the tune, at least that's what we call it in Celtic music. you know, to be able to turn around to somebody in the next row and go, oh, you know, do you know da da dum bum ba da dee da da dee 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 da 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 dee da 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 dee da. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one. So that is a really valuable skill. It's an essential skill if you're going to be out playing sessions, for sure. So that's something to be aware of, is the singing part is really, really, really crucial. So the first most important thing is listening. The second most important thing is singing. And then after that, how do you get it onto your fiddle? So what I like to do, especially in workshops, I tell you, this works amazingly. I am able to get everyone in the whole room, regardless of their level, playing the tune like in 10 or 15 minutes with this way. It's so great. So what I do is I sit there and play the tune really slow, and I make everyone listen and do that whole thing. Then I make everyone sing and do that. And again, this is all at everybody's own speed. They can go at their own speed and do their own thing. So listening and singing. And then the next thing you want to do is pluck the tune on your fiddle. And this is really important because what this does is you're isolating your left hand. We're only going to focus on the left hand right now. We're only going to focus on the fingering. The bow is not part of it. And so you get to take a little time, and you can either do it like this. I tend to do it like this, or you could do it this way, classical pizzicato style, if you want to do that. But I like to take the tune and take some time to just play. So I'm only worried about the fingers. I'm only worried about, okay, where is this note? Where do I put my fingers down? Is that an A to an E? Is that an A to an F sharp? Like, what's going on there? So by taking the bowing out, it really decreases the amount of complications that you have to worry about getting the tune from your head to your voice to your fiddle. So this works so brilliantly. I can't even tell you, when everybody's going through this in a workshop and everybody's learning the tune, and I get to do this old style, lazy style, teacher-wise, and I get to just sit there and play the tune really slow, and everybody goes through their motion, everybody goes through their steps, whatever time works for them. So this way works really well to just isolate the left hand. So you can do that with this tune. Just listen along. And you'll know when you're wrong, and you'll be able to fix it, and you'll be able to kind of just focus on that left hand. It's just such a great thing to do. And then last but not least, but you know, definitely last on the list, you want to make sure you have as many of those notes under your fingers, if not all of them, as possible before you pick this thing up. Don't pick this up too soon. Don't move through the steps too soon, and don't pick this up too soon. I will tell you at this point, if you feel like you're struggling with the plucking, go back to the singing, or maybe go back to the listening. Like, go back in time, go back to the beginning. And the more you spend at the beginning stages with the listening and the singing, the more you'll go, oh, I know what that is now. It's something just clicked for me. So the last thing we're going to do, last, wait till you're really feeling comfortable and you're kind of just bored with it by now. Wait till you're totally bored, and then pick up your fiddle and see if you can do the tune. So if you've gotten that far, you can take the A part apart and just work on that for a while. And then you can work on the B part and do whatever you like. But going through those steps and even going back and forth, if you've watched some of the videos so far in this course, you've noticed I do singing a lot. I try to do that a little bit for you, where we go back and forth from playing to singing. And that's to give you an idea of my process that I use. I stop and sing a tune and just let it kind of do its thing. So I would highly recommend doing that. And then once you can play the whole tune, then you can play the whole tune really slow. So that is how you learn a tune. And so now that you have all those 4 steps, you can go ahead and pick up tunes anywhere. And it might be slow at the beginning, but that's okay. It takes a little time. These are all skills that you have to develop, and they take time. Just like learning anything takes a lot of time. So you can pick up tunes from listening to recordings. You can record tunes when you're out at a session somewhere and just listen, and it takes some time, but you know, you will get there, I promise. The more you listen to things, the more you will be able to understand exactly what's happening, and you'll be able to understand it at a greater level of detail the more time goes on. Another fabulous tool that you can use is they have all kinds of slow downer apps now. There's an app called the Amazing Slow Downer, which I recommend to people all the time. And if you don't have much time and you just want to figure out what something is, you want to be able to, you know, sort of slide the tune up and down in time without changing the pitch, apps like that are absolutely fabulous for doing that. But that's not what we had back in my day. I learned my tunes off of cassette tapes. So, and records. So, you know, we had a few CDs when I was starting out, but that wasn't really a big thing when I started playing. And CDs, you couldn't slow down either. At least with the tape, you could slow it down to half speed, but then it also, you know, took the pitch down. So back when I was doing it, you know, you had to just listen to the tune 800 times or maybe 8,000 times. That was it. That was kind of it. And it wasn't the worst system in the world, honestly. It made me work harder. It made everybody else that I was, those of us back in the old pre-digital days, it made all of us sit up a little straighter and work a little harder. And yeah, it took a lot of time, but it was like, you know, I feel like it trained my ear, really got my ears up to that full speed level more than if I had, you know, used some slow downer thing, because that was available but wildly inefficient. So, you know, I'm not saying don't use slow downers. I'm just saying you don't have to. If that's not something that you're interested in and you kind of want to just make it hard for yourself, don't worry, that will be just as beneficial. So I would say, you know, listen to lots of fiddle music. Have it around you all the time, you know, really just dive in and listen to lots of different things, and you will start to figure things out. You will go, oh, you know what? I think I know what note that is. I think I know what string that is. I think I can tell whether that fiddle player has their bow going up or down or not. You know, at first it'll all seem a wash, and then after a while you'll start to pick things out, and it becomes a really fun game to play of putting on, you know, fiddle music, you know, while you're around the house or in the car or something, and going, let's see if I can guess what key this is in. Let's see if I can guess, you know, this, that, or the other thing. Or just singing along to the tunes in the car, getting good at your diddles. So, you know, you can just diddle away for hours in the car. That's what I like to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful for you. And I hope you enjoyed that whole 4-step process, listening, singing, plucking, and playing. And good luck. Good luck, my friend. Good luck. Hey everybody, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. If you're looking for more, you can become a member, book a lesson, or see what I'm up to these days at emeraldray.com.